In this tutorial, we'll have a look at controlling the position property of a layer by using quite a few different methods. Let's start maybe with the sun layer. So let me zoom into the sun layer here by holding down the Alt key and then using my scroll wheel on the mouse. There. And I'm going to hold down the spacebar to bring the frame down. And then, in fact, let's go and solo the sun layer. So let's go to the sun layer here and then click on the solo switch. So that's all we're seeing now. So if you select the sun layer and then press the letter P to reveal position, as soon as you do that, you'll see that the position has two numbers. The first one is the X position and the second one is the Y position. X is the horizontal position and Y is the vertical position. And these are measured in pixels based on the top left corner of the composition. So this means now that the center of the sun is 212.5 pixels away from the top left corner on the X-axis and 133.6 pixels down on the Y-axis. Now every time you see a number in After Effects and it's blue, and when you move your cursor over it, it turns into an icon like this, so it's a hand with two arrows on either side, that means you can just click and drag on these numbers to update them. For example, if I want to change the X value here, I can just go and click and then drag this towards right or left, and you'll see that the layer will move left or right only. And I can do the same for the Y as well. So if I click on this and then drag this down or up, I'm moving just the Y-axis. Another way to update these values is to simply click on them and then you can type in a new value. So if I actually go and type in 0, 0, you see that the center of the sun will jump and snap to the top left corner of the composition. So if I go and type in 0, tab 0, now you'll see that the center of the sun is exactly on the top left corner, which is where the origin of the composition is. Another way to change these values is by simply using the selection tool. This is the first one here. V is the shortcut on the keyboard. You get the selection tool and then you can freely click and drag this object around. So if I click and drag this around, you see that this updates the two numbers that we saw a second ago. So this is a little bit more visual. So if I click and drag this around, you can see I can place this pretty much anywhere I like. And as you drag this, if you want the movement to be constrained to a straight line, you use the Shift key on the keyboard. So if I click and drag, you can see freely I can move this around. But if I hold down the Shift key, that will lock that movement to be only on the X, or if I go up and down, to be on the Y-axis as well. So if I do this now, I can't move it left and right. But if I go to the right a little more here, I can't now move this up and down. I can only move it left and right. So Shift key constrains the movement only to be on the X or the Y-axis. Now there are two things you need to keep in mind when you're working with the Shift key. The first one is that you hold the Shift key down after you clicked and started dragging the layer. So you click and drag first, then hold the Shift key down to activate it. Otherwise, if you hold down Shift first, then click and drag, it actually thinks that you're trying to select multiple layers by creating a marquee selection. So that doesn't work. You need to first click, drag, then hold the Shift key down, so that will lock the layer only to move on the X or the Y. The second thing you need to keep in mind when you use the Shift key is that you let go of the mouse first, then the Shift key. So if I click and drag and hold the Shift key down, it locks it. And before I let go of my mouse, if I let go of the Shift key, it freely moves this again. So I need to remember to let go of my mouse first, then the Shift key. That's true for most of the modifier keys, and not just in After Effects, in pretty much any software as well. You let go of your mouse first. If you're using a modifier key, you click and drag, let's say in this case, hold down the Shift key. You let go of your mouse first, then the modifier key. So in that order. You don't let go of them at the same time. You don't let go of the Shift key first. You let go of your mouse first, then the modifier key, which is Shift in this case. Another way to move the layer around is by using the arrows on the keyboard. So if the layer is selected, and if I press the up, down, left or right arrows on the keyboard, you see every time I do this, the layer is moving up or down, left or right, by 1 pixel at a time. This is called nudging the layer. So you nudge the layer up, down, left, right by 1 pixel by using the arrows on the keyboard. When you use these arrows, if you want the movement to be faster, you hold down the Shift key again. So instead of using the arrows just on their own, if I hold down Shift and then use the arrows, instead of 1 pixel, it nudges the layer by 10 pixels at a time. So we looked at quite a few different ways of tweaking the position property of a layer. In the next tutorial, we'll have a look at the other transform controls.